Hello everyone. Welcome to SecPod's all new webcast. Thank you for joining this session in your busy schedule. I hope you are able to hear my voice and view the presentation clearly. Any issues, please do let us know. We will look into it right away. Today's webinar is going to be about security automation architecture principles for effective vulnerability management. And in this webinar, you will be learning in detail about the principles of building a continuous, automated, and scalable architecture for effective vulnerability management. And if you have any questions during the session, please do raise it then and there. Towards the end of the session, we will be picking up the questions and providing answers for them. The recording for today's webinar will be available in BrightTalk as well as SecPod's YouTube channel, and you will also be receiving a mail with the recording. Before we begin, let me introduce the presenter for today. We have Preeti Subramanian with us, SecPod's Chief Architect. She will be taking us through the session today, and over to Preeti now to kickstart the webinar.
Thank you, Dikshita. Hello, world, all the people who have joined from different parts of the globe. Hello, world is often the smallest program, one of the smallest programs that we write if you're a programmer to print Hello, world. And that too can be vulnerable. That is one of the interesting facts that kind of I was reading about it. And we use these complex operating systems and we write software. We use software for our businesses, and they too can be vulnerable. So, I will dig deep into building a continuous automated advanced vulnerability management framework. As you can see in this slide, we have visibility, identify, assess, prioritize, remediate, report, all these things which are important for an advanced vulnerability management. I'm taking this slide from the previous webinar just to connect the dots from where the last webinar had ended. All these uh, green boxes that you see on the slide operate in silos. Each of them could be a different product. You could know your vulnerabilities, but to patch, you might need another tool. And often these components do not feed into one another, and the ineffectiveness starts there. So at SecPod with SanerNow, what we have designed is to first gain visibility into how your entire IT infrastructure looks. What are the devices that are there? What software assets do you use? What are the network devices which are there in your organization? Then we identify not just software vulnerabilities, but also misconfigurations, missing patches, and various other security risk exposures that we have. Assess them from a very um, compact single console and provide you insightful reports, which is very, very simplistic. Then we help prioritize your vulnerabilities and patching. We take into account all the high fidelity attacks that we call vulnerabilities which can be exploited by a known malware. If public exploits are available for that vulnerability, you would want to take that as a priority, isn't it? And then remediate using patching the vulnerabilities, but also take into account fixing the misconfigurations in your uh, setup that you have, and also apply some additional controls. For example, you want to block an application or block an installer. All these are important parts of mitigating risks, and also have reports that can give you insights on how it looked yesterday and how it is going to look today, right? I have patched and how I am becoming better and better at vulnerability management. With the principles that we have built this vulnerability management system, we ask ourselves three questions. The first one is, do we go beyond software vulnerabilities? Do we also take care of other attack surfaces that are currently there in the organization? Do we have an integrated remediation control that can take care of security patches and also going beyond these security patches? And is it a continuous and automated process in your organization? So, with that, with those three questions, I see these three things that I have marked on the top. We have the capabilities to manage vulnerabilities and going beyond, have an integrated patch management system which takes care of patching software vulnerabilities, fixing misconfigurations that we have, um, show to you how your asset exposure is. Are you using any outdated applications? How are your security control deviations? Missing patches if you have, other than any security patches, do you have any feature upgrades that are required? And also the new posture anomaly that I'll be talking about it in the future slides. So what is required for this unified centralized solution is to be able to integrate all these capabilities in one platform which works on a common machine readable data set so that you don't need to collect too much of information from the agents. You have probes to know what is actually happening in your IT environment. You can query and respond in real time. You have a query, you want to know right now what processes are running, what is causing a problem, and immediately be able to respond to it. And also, as and when the peak increases, is it scalable? Is it giving you high performance? Is it reliable? Do you have high availability? Are the questions that come, and that is the key requirement for any unified solution. And of course, now that we have data from all these endpoints, we can also analyze and correlate and see if there is what is the best mitigation that we can give to this kind of situation. How does our technical architecture look like? This is one of the slides that shows that. On the top, if you can see, this is how a typical IT infrastructure would look like. You will have workstation, network devices, you'll have servers, you have some machines which are running over the cloud infrastructure, you're using virtual machines, and we handle all major OSs of Linux, Windows, and Mac. And if this is your IT infrastructure, we have radars which can check what is happening in your systems. We can change this radar to act like a network scanner. We can scan your virtual machines. If you have an Active Directory setup which is there, we can even use that as an input and roll out patches through your AD. These agents actually talk to our server over an outbound 443, which is typically open in all the organizations. We do real-time communication using WebSockets. And if, apart from all the scanning that we have done on everyday basis, if you have a query, we can do that in a matter of seconds and even respond to it. A typical server looks something like this, where we have a homegrown SCAP feed with over 160,000 checks. And also, we have vulnerability and threat intelligence that comes with it. We have detect, decide, and respond facility. And all this information that gets collected, we analyze and correlate so that we can give you insightful data of what is happening in your organization. Now, if you want to search something into whatever data that we have collected, the query should take less than 1 second. And all this should happen with high performance, of course. All the data that we have from various business units can come and sit and reside into the same server. We provide multi tenancy. And of course, we have access rights that we give to that so that the data is neatly segregated. We also provide role based access where we have administrators or a normal user, account administrators, and based on that, we can give them which capability they would want to use in our server. This entire server is scalable. And this is built with all these capabilities that you can see. We have vulnerability management, compliance management, patch management, asset exposure, endpoint management, and EQR. You can choose one or many of these capabilities according to what your requirement is. And we have an integration which is given through a web interface on your browser or through REST APIs. So this is how our platform looks like. This slide talks about um, what do we want to know in the organization. Basically, the core of any product is to know something, detect some anomaly or some risk in your organization, and to be able to respond to it quickly. So for that, we have built the core of our server, which acts on these query, which eventually becomes a detection. We do some analysis on it. With our action modules, we'll be able to give you a response. With queries, I can find out all the vulnerabilities that are there on all the devices that you have, the misconfigurations, missing patches, if there are any. If you want to know how is your password aging, set configuration, are you realizing that your passwords have aged? Your screen lockout policies are proper? Your firewall status has some deviation? You have to know how your CPU utilization is in your endpoints. You want to know any unwanted programs that are running which are potentially dangerous for your organization. How is your Wi-Fi setup? What is the security status of it? You can know if any sensitive data is stored in clear text, whether it is credit card or social security numbers. If you have an antivirus running, you want to know if it is up to date and running well. You can also know if your machines are up for more than 7 days. You can know if the disk space is reducing less than 100 MB. You can know your Windows registry values. You can even add a registry, change a registry value, and also know assets which have unknown publisher. You don't know what that software is. And of course, everybody would want to know what are the outdated, out of life applications that we are using. So, this is a small list that I actually told you, but we have much more capabilities built in, and probably you can try it out when you try our architecture, our senior product. Now, coming up to the core of our product, which is ANCOR, which is the analytics and correlation engine, as we call it. We provide fast scans, which is within 5 minutes. We have various mitigation mechanisms. We have remediation scripts that can run, which can run with a pre or a post script, how you want to handle your remediation. We have various detection and response scripts pre built. We have 400 plus reports that you can see. And we collect all the device data, and we have our security intelligence that we have built. Together, we can probably give you a very insightful report where we can tell you how your organization has been, how your vulnerabilities have been aging. Do you have any high fidelity attacks? Do you have vulnerabilities which have a public exploit available? A lateral movement is possible when an attack happens. All these capabilities are built within our Anchor. And security is inbuilt in this entire setup where every transaction that happens with our server is uh, authenticated using a SAML based key. Everything is encoded and over HTTPS. We also have capabilities that we have a plasma search. For example, you're searching for a knowledge base article and you want to know if that particular vulnerability is there in your organization. When you search for that KB article of Microsoft, you can also know a blog that responds to it, a device which has that problem. All those things are interrelated and it gives a very holistic view of your organization. We are also working on some interesting things like posture anomaly, knowing deviations in your organizations. We are building a trust model where we can suggest, go ahead with this patch. So many people have tried it out successfully. We also can help you prioritize remediation based on CVSS score. We can suggest based on high fidelity attacks, a malware or ransomware which is out. We can suggest that you fix them first. We can also find out any security deviations. For example, your firewall status is changing, you can immediately get alerted. We can also predict which vulnerability is going to be the next big problem for the world. We have our own security intelligence feed. We take CVE, CC, CWE, CPE from a public source. Then we build a detection mechanism using OVAL for all those CVEs where the information is not readily available. It does take time to update in the databases. We go to the vendor site, we try to understand what is that vulnerability, and we develop something called SVE, which is our own enumeration, bringing in value to people. We also have remediation, which is built as soon as the CV is known. We try to build a remediation script along with it, and we try to break it down further into ERI, where we can see what is the patch that is applicable, what is the size, does it require a reboot or not, how the patch has evolved over time. We also develop XCCDF benchmark to comply with various standards such as PCI, SOC 2, and also we have our own inbuilt SQRL. Sounds pretty much like SQL, but not quite like SQL. But then it has all the capabilities which are pre-built, and we can match it with the remediation that is required or the response that you want to give to a detected problem. And we also have something called a malware vulnerability enumeration. So, all this time that I was talking about high fidelity attacks, we mark every vulnerability with an MVE, knowing that this ransomware is there out in public and you need to fix these vulnerabilities as a priority. So, that is also a value addition that we give to our users. So, all these things actually act together. So, if you are building an architecture, you need to understand what vulnerabilities are there, what information is not enough, and build on it. We have something called SanerNow radars, where we have a server and all the agents contact that server. Now, these agents work on various operating systems. We handle almost all available operating systems that are there in use today. We have the capability of turning one of the agents into a network scanner. Now, you don't need a box, you don't need an extra piece of hardware running in your organization. You can use this as a network scanner in itself. So, the agent does its own scanning and also identifies all the network devices. It does a discovery, then it does a port scanning and vulnerability scanning that is required. Similarly, we can also change the agent to work as an AD scanner. So if you have an Active Directory setup, we can discover all the users and all the devices that are there in your organization, and then we can deploy using the in itself and roll out patches using that AD. So all these radars help us to know what is running in our environment. To give a summary of what we have developed, we have an advanced vulnerability management system where we just do not concentrate only on software vulnerabilities, but we try to go one step beyond. And all this works with a single agent which collects a constant data from the devices, and all these tools use the common data set, so you don't need different agents to run, you don't need an extra step to do one more thing such as patch management. And also this entire solution is available on cloud or on premise as is the requirement of our customers. And we also have the world's largest library of security checks, which we are very proud of. Now, coming to the benefits of SanerNow. First of all, it's very robust, natively built, truly integrated solution. So you don't need to actually look at multiple consoles. Everything is available on a single console for you to look at. There is seamless integration between one capability to another. So it will give you a holistic view of these vulnerabilities are there in my organization. I need to prevent attacks. So what is the patch that is required? What is critical to me? Is there a firmware update required? Should I test it first and then deploy? All sorts of capabilities are there. Our patch management is very, very feature rich. And we have a single data set, as I said before, which can cater to all these capabilities. The next point that we have mentioned here is real time communication, which is to talk to devices in real time, which is secure and also only on outbound 443. So you make a connection and you can just talk, it's just an outbound connection, and you can run your queries, understand what is running, what are the ports which are open, and probably take an action. You want to stop an application from running if required. We also have high performance scalable architecture where we have big data to store all the information from the endpoints, and it is fine tuned to handle peak load, which might be required for all the um, products out there to handle a time when there is peak load. And it is also performance tuned so that it gives the best experience to our customers. We also have multi-tenant support where we try to give all the organization data to reside in one platform, but yet they are segregated and we have the right access rights in place. It is rapid, continuous, and an automated operation. We do the scan every day within 5 minutes, and the response that has to be taken is nearly zero time. So, as soon as we figure out that there are vulnerabilities in the organization or there are misconfigurations or some deviation with the things that you are trying to check, we can take actions in no time and respond to that problem. You can leverage the cloud or on premise solution as per your requirement. So, if you have a cloud infrastructure that you are using, which we are hosting, you have zero infra cost. And for an on premise setup, the data will not leave the premise. So, you can just have a machine that can help us install, and we can do this setup pretty quickly and onboard you within 30 minutes. And there are different deployment modes that are available, whether you want to put it in your repository for download, you want to push it through Active Directory, or you want a URL from where it can be downloaded. All that can be set up. So we have numerous ways of installing the agents. And we have seamless integration and interoperability because it's a very flexible architecture. And we have REST APIs that we give to our users to contact or integrate with their systems. The most important thing is to provide an additional authentication that secures your account. So we do provide multi-factor authentication. We also are working on giving single login, a single sign-on capability that we are working on. And also, this operates on a lightweight agent. So this agent is a bare minimum agent that can collect all the information, a common data set. So it feels light. So even if you're working, it will not disturb your work, or you can probably do a scan in your lunch hours and make it easy for you to know your status of risks on a daily basis. We have an inbuilt natural language search that we have built without using any of the technologies. It is inbuilt by us, where we carefully take what type of searches that people will perform on this data set, and we give insightful data information to you. And if you have devices or sales people who are moving out of the organization, working outside the premise, or you allow people to bring in their own devices, or these devices move inside and outside an organization, you can always handle it with the cloud infrastructure that we provide, where they connect anytime, and all the people who are inside the organization can connect to an on premise setup. So, how does the SanerNow deployment architecture work? Because we have people who are joining in from large enterprises today, so I thought let's discuss of how a typical deployment looks like. This is one of the simplest deployment that you can see, where we provide a Saner. You can just sign in and onboard yourself, download the agent, install on your machines, and you can see a beautiful web interface that is coming up telling you the problems and what are the solution to mitigate these risks. You can also opt in for an on-premise architecture, where these servers which are shown talk to the cloud and download on a daily basis, and the agents contact the server which is in your premise and collect data. And also, of course, you can visualize this. So all the vulnerability data remains within the organization. You only download the intelligence from us, how to detect these vulnerabilities. And we release our um, security intelligence twice every week. And if you have a 0-day vulnerability which is coming, so we do that within 24 hours. So you'll get all this information pretty quickly. For a very large organization, often there's a challenge of how we are going to deploy this entire setup. So, of course, you will have a master server in your organization where you can download all the security intelligence and have on-prem setup in various locations, and the data that you have it in your master server can act as a file server to, or a network file system, where you can just connect to these servers which will download the security intelligence, and all the data of these can only reside in this particular setup. So we can scale as much as possible with a master server that can reside in your organization. So coming back to where I started, advanced vulnerability management had all these: visibility, identify, assess, prioritize, remediate. We have been talking about this for 2 decades now. And here we are making it a reality. Probably everybody who's looking at vulnerability management as a solution that they need all of this in order to prevent attacks. And with this, I think I end this webinar and I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Preeti. That was a very informative session. And I believe everyone clearly understood the concepts of building an advanced, continuous, and automated architecture for effective vulnerability management. Over to questions now. If you have any questions, please do raise them. We will be taking up those questions and providing the answers for those.
So we have a question here. Is there any recording of this session? Yes. You will be able to access it using BrightTalk. The second question here is there any way we can wipe out company's data of BYOD if users leave the company? If the agent is installed still in those devices, you can always choose to delete files on that particular machine using our respond capability, where you can delete directories and files. I hope I answered your question. Are we SOC 2 compliant? Yes, we are. Here is a question. Do we support Okta as an SSO? Yes, we will be in an upcoming release, which is happening. Any details about data protection through SanerNow Cloud? Uh, can you be more specific of what you're talking about? Data protection, as in if you want to encrypt a disk or something like that? It's possible. You can also install software if you have. For an on-prem deployment, what is the time taken? It's 30 minutes that we can put you onto using SanerNow, and we can download all the content. That probably would take some time, but yes, it is about 30 minutes that we can just set up your entire setup, and then you can configure your account and just get onboarded. Will there be an account manager assigned or support? Yes, we have 24 bar 5 support that we provide, and our people are always on the toes to help you out. When you log in for the first time, you become the administrator of that account, and we have no access to your data, but of course, our support team will be there to help you. What data do we store on the client side, right? From the client side onto our SecPod portal. If you're using our cloud infrastructure, we neatly segregate your data from other organizations who are using. So you don't need to be worried. But we do store the vulnerability data that is computed on a daily basis so that we can provide you insights of remediation that has to be given, that is important for us to know, and also related to other reports that we would want you to use it on a daily basis. Can we do a scan of our company's internal servers? Yes. If they are running the standard OSs, yes, you can. You can scan your servers. If they are not connected to the internet, then we have a solution where air gap network solution which we will provide, where you can take the content from us and scan your internal servers which are not listening outside. Why do you need to choose our product where there are many products similar to us? I'll come back to those three questions. Those products, do they go beyond software vulnerability? Do they have an integrated remediation which works flawlessly? And also, do they go beyond security patches? And is it a continuous and automated process? Right? That's what makes us stand apart as a product in this field. How much will this cost? For the cost, one of our members will get in touch with you of how the costing is. We have different capabilities with different cost. So whichever you are interested in, we will be able to guide you with the right thing that will work well for you.
So, with this, I think we are done with today's session. Once again, thank you, Preeti, for an amazing session. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in your busy schedule. And the recording of this session will be available in Bright Talk channel as well as in SecPod's YouTube account. You will also be
There's
receiving.
another question, Dikshita. There's
Okay,
one more
yeah.
question here. Do you have vulnerability prioritization capability? Yes, we do have vulnerability prioritization capability where you can see which are the high fidelity attacks and prioritize them based on CVC score. You can prioritize them, or the applications that are critical to you. You can prioritize. Can you schedule remediation for a specific time to prevent? Yes, we have an end time that you can specify where all the remediation will stop. That for the license type, I think one of our members will get in touch with you. Do you have existence in Eastern India? We have existence all over. Again, if you want insights of which places, we'll get in contact. Is it similar to an APM tool? We integrate all the capabilities such as vulnerability management. So if you want to see security, you are busy building your own business and security is a concern, you can leave it on to us and we will help you mitigate all the vulnerabilities where prevention is what we take care of first, which is the first line of defense. And of course, we have capabilities to check if your antiviruses are up and running and your firewall policies are in place, your compliance policies are in place. So everything built together as one tool is what we provide as SanerNow platform. Remediation type is not just CV based, we also have SVEs. Basically, yes, CV plays a very important role for prioritizing, but we also have remediation where you can run scripts to do remediation for what matters to you. If you have to run a script through software deployment or you want to run some pre post remediation, is also possible. But if the CV information is not complete, we still go ahead and give you patches, which we are confident because the vendor has released the patch. And remediation type also includes security versus non-security. I think I already answered this question. Can we schedule remediation at a specific time? Yes, we can start at a particular time. We can end it before your work hours so that it does not disturb your regular work. We can choose not to reboot your systems. You can do all of that in your convenient time. Is it possible to scan a web application or an API URL? If it is a commonly known application, such as Apache Tomcat or a web server, we will be able to detect vulnerabilities in those. If you are looking more like a penetration testing type of a thing, we work on known vulnerabilities because 90% of the attacks that happen make use of a known vulnerability. So that's where we feel that we can provide value. So if there are any more questions, you can feel free to put them or we will reply to you, Dikshita.
Yeah, sure, Preeti. So, any more questions, please do raise it to us. We will take it up offline and we will provide answers to all your questions. With this, we are wrapping up today's session. And thank you, Preeti, for the amazing webinar. And thank you all for joining this session. And we will all keep you posted
Thank you.
about our next webinar soon. Until then, stay tuned with us. Once again, thanks a lot and have an amazing day.
Thank you so much.